Alright, Ghouls and Ghouls, so this is a list that I've wanted to do for a while, and I'm going to try doing it this way. Top 20 movie endings. Now, when I say ending, I don't specifically just mean like the final scene of the movie. I'm more talking the final 15-20 minutes of the film, but there are some picks on here that are more so for the actual end of the film. There are other picks that are more so because of the whole last 15-20 minutes. It depends on the movie. So I tried to keep it a little balanced. So there were a little bit of honorable mentions. One of them was Martyrs from 2008. Obviously, there are spoilers for the endings for all these movies, and since you don't know what's on this list, just be on the lookout for spoilers for any movie. But the ending of Martyrs, where we see Anna after all the pain and suffering that she went through, and the mademoiselle who gets the whisper from her, and how she ends up blowing her brains out when she tells the guy to keep doubting. A brilliant, disturbing ending to a brilliantly disturbing movie. Carrie, Brian De Palma's adaptation from 1976. This is more so just for how creative and innovative the jump scare at the end is. When the friend goes to Carrie's burnt down house and we get the infamous jump scare with Carrie's hand coming out of the grave, out of the ground, which of course inspired one of the entries on this list. Lucio Fulci's The Beyond from 1981 is another one. Just for the last 20 minutes or so, there's such great effect sequences, and just the whole ending sequence is so stylish. We have Wreck from 2007, which I think all the night vision stuff with the patient Zero in the apartment complex with the main character, all of that is really, really tense and makes for a really suspenseful watch every single time I rewatch this movie. Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2. I love this entire film. A lot of you know that. But the ending to this movie, the last 15 minutes or so, with us seeing two different versions of events. We see what they think happened, then we see the video footage of what actually happened. And just their reactions, their responses of that's fucking bullshit. All of that is just fantastic. A great, great ending. But those didn't make the cut. So here's my top 20 movie endings of all time. The only reason it's not horror movie endings is because it's just two movies that aren't really horror movies. One definitely isn't, but it's just the best ending ever. So, sorry, we're going to go with it. Number 20 is Maniac from 2012 with Elijah Wood, the remake. This movie is a work of art. I say it all the time. It's one of the greatest remakes, and the whole ending with Elijah Wood's acting as Frank and just how he becomes so unhinged and how he's chasing after Anna, and then just the hallucinations with the mannequins and how he gets torn apart, and you see that he has a mannequin like body underneath him, under his skin, and the symbolism that means for his character. Just the whole ending to this movie is fantastic, just like the entirety of it is. Number 19, I had to go back to the 70s, to 1974 for Black Christmas. This choice was because of the infamous, the calls are coming from inside the house, and then at the end, after we're not sure what happens to our final girl. We don't know if she gets killed or not, because every time in the movie that one of the girls are murdered by Billy, the phone would ring. And then the phone rings at the end. So it's a nice ambiguous ending, and it's an absolute classic, so this ending had to show up on this list. Number 18, Phantasm from 1979. You can pretty much put any of the Phantasm endings here, but figured why not just go with the original, since they all end with a character being grabbed through either a mirror or a window. But love the ending here when Mike ends up going upstairs after having his whole reality shifted after thinking his brother was alive. He realizes now his brother died, and he goes upstairs, and then just the infamous tall man line, boy, and then the crash. Infamous ending. Number 17, this is more for the actual ending itself, but man, I don't know many other theater experiences that I've had where the theater just absolutely lost its shit at the end of a film. And this is Saw from 2004. When John Kramer gets up off the floor at the end, and you see that for the first time, the music kicks in. Everyone in the theater was gasping and talking to each other and like, oh my god. I will never forget that theater experience. Just an absolute epic ending with the brilliant score to go with it. Number 16, we got The Wicker Man from 1973. Now this one mostly just made the list because it's kind of creeped me out when I was a kid and scared the shit out of me. Just seeing this guy, this detective who went to this island and didn't do anything wrong, then this cult ends up just burning him and sacrificing him to try to, help their crops. It creeped me out, and it's a very effective ending still to this day. So The Wicker Man has to get some love. That's number 16. Now, number 15, I tried to stay away from a lot of twist endings, but this one, of course, has to be on a greatest endings list. M. Night Shyamalan's The Sixth Sense from 1999. This movie pretty much redefined what a twist ending was. So just the whole discovery that Haley Joel Osment's character has been seeing dead people this whole time, and he's been talking with Bruce Willis this entire movie, and Bruce Willis has been dead this entire time. And it's one of those twists that when you go back and watch the movie, it all works, it all fits, it all is written beautifully. There's no real cheats in this twist, and that makes it absolutely worthy of being on this list. Number 14 is Mike Flanagan's Oculus from 2014. Now, this is a movie I haven't done a video on yet, but I love Oculus. This is my favorite Flanagan film, and I'm a big Flanagan fan as it is. Just like I was recently saying in the video about Frank Darabont being very good at adapting Stephen King novels to film, Flanagan is the same way. And a big issue I have with both the 1990 miniseries of It and It Chapter 1 and 2 is that they just can't adapt the ending of the novel well to film. You're going very fast between them being kids and them being adults, to the point that every chapter starts getting shorter and shorter to the point that it's only a sentence or two per chapter. And this is pretty much exactly what Flanagan does on screen at the end of Oculus, when he starts blurring together the present time when they're adults and the past when they were kids. I feel like Flanagan would be the best pick to actually remake it again and do it the best justice that has ever been done. But the whole ending to this movie is an absolute just mind fuck. It's just time twisting, and I love every single second of it. Now, number 13, and I swear I just realized this now, coincidentally, is Friday the 13th from 1980. And this is mostly just for Jason jumping out of the water at the end. It's just one of the first horror films I ever saw after Halloween was Friday, and it's just something that will always have a place in my heart. Seeing Jason jump out of that water and just grab Alice and bring her under. Number 12, I think, is one of the most depressing goddamn endings in a movie, and that is The Mist. Just speaking of Frank Darabont, his adaptation from 2007. What a gut punch this ending is. Just to see that you have no way out in your mind, and you kill your own son and girl that you kind of like a bit, and another person, and then you want to kill yourself, and then the mist starts to go away, and help arrives, and you can't even kill yourself. Oh, it is such a gut punch of an ending. Even Stephen King said he preferred that ending to the ending of his short story, the novella, and I absolutely agree. What a gut punch of an ending. It hits hard every single time, but it is so effective. So The Mist at number 12. Number 11, we got the classic 1968 George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead. Just for all the shots of the zombies eating the corpses and the parts of the bodies at the end of the movie, then the next morning where Ben gets shot and killed and just thrown on the pile like he's another ghoul, which for the time was very, very groundbreaking. But it still holds up as a very impactful, and for your first time seeing this movie, surprising ending. So Night of the Living Dead at number 11. Number 10, we got Dario Argento's Tenebrae from 1982. The ending to this movie is spectacular, especially the blood spray when she gets her arm chopped off and the spray goes all over the white wall. It looks absolutely grotesquely gorgeous in a way that only Argento can do. And then Peter Neal's fake killing of himself, then when he actually gets killed, Daria Nicolodi's reaction, all of it is just perfection. Tenebrae, 1982 at number 10. Number 9, we have Sleepaway Camp from 1983. Now, of course, most of this, if not all of this, has to do with the ending to end all endings. If this was the most shocking ending list, this would be number 1. I don't think anyone who ever saw this film ever in their life who wasn't told, look out for some ridiculous shit you'll never see coming, ever saw the ending of this movie coming. And just seeing Angela on the beach with the severed head of Paul, I think his name is, right? I could be wrong on that. It's been a while. Falls out of her lap, and oh my God, she's a boy. And then just the face and the stare on Angela, and the breathing, and what a creepy goddamn ending. What an infamous ending. What a goddamn brilliant, sick mind who wrote it. Alright, number 8, we have Dario Argento again with Suspiria from 1977, which I'm talking basically as soon as Susie Bannion opens the door with the flower, the secret door to where the witches, their little hideout actually is. And Goblin score kicks in and builds as she walks down the hallway. And then we see Sarah's body with the pins in her eyes, the barbed wire, and her throat's cut, and all of that through the ending until it burns down. Everything. So Suspiria, the whole last 15-20 minutes. Number 7, we have William Friedkin's The Exorcist from 1973. This is pretty much the whole ending exorcism scene. As soon as Father Merrin shows up, and the whole scene with Merrin and Karis, and the power of Christ compels you, and her levitating off the bed, and the white in her eyes, all the way to Karis throwing himself out the window, and to the ending of the film. I don't think there's anything more that can be said about it. Let's move on. Number 6 would have to be Psycho from 1960. Everything from Lila Loomis going down into the fruit cellar and then being attacked by Norman in Mother's clothing, and then the whole explanation of what happened to Norman's psyche, and then hearing Mother's dialogue. The whole ending of this film, I mean, just the fact that Alfred Hitchcock went out of his way and bought every single copy of the novel of Psycho in the towns that it was screening and premiering in, so people wouldn't know the twist. That's how you know you have a good goddamn twist. And the ending still just holds up. So number 6, Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. Alright, number 5, now this is one of the 2 movies of why this isn't labeled a horror movie list, even though this is, to me, a horror film. And this is one that we just did a watch on, is Requiem for a Dream from Darren Aronofsky from 2000. The last 15-20 minutes of this film is just one of the most intense endings ever in cinema history. The score is absolutely brilliant. It's one of the greatest scores in cinema history. The editing is unreal. The performances, everything about the ending is just, it gets too intense at times. And that's why this is one of those movies that a lot of people say they think it's an excellent film or it's a masterpiece, but they just can't watch it often because it's depressing as hell. And I totally get that. But goddamn, is the ending to this movie effective. And that's why it's number 5. Number 4 on JT's Top 20 Movie Endings of All Time is Lucio Fulci's City of the Living Dead from 1980, or Gates of Hell. Everything from when they enter the crypt of Father Thomas to the end. Everything. The way the crypt looks, the way that the zombies look when they show up, Fabio Frizzi's absolutely perfect score that kicks in at the exact right moment after the bass drum and the zombies are rising, Father Thomas's look, the cinematography, the bleeding of the eyes, the zombies on fire, Father Thomas on fire. Everything about this ending, I can watch it anytime, anywhere, and it'll get me giddy as a goddamn schoolgirl. So, Lucio Fulci's City of the Living Dead from 1980 at number 4. Number 3 is John Carpenter's Halloween from 1978. Everything from Laurie leaving the Doyle house and taking her stroll across the street, and then finding everyone's bodies, and then the chase back to the Doyle house, and the keys. All of that, like I always say, is the most tense scene ever put to film. But everything to the end of the movie. But from that part, about 20 minutes or so. It really doesn't get much better than that. Except for with these last two ones. Number 2, I just watched this with my boy Dave at Savage Zombie Reviews. George A. Romero's 1985 masterpiece, Day of the Dead. The last 20 minutes of this movie is the best ending for me to a horror film. The last 20 minutes of this movie, just the practical effects alone, but all the kills of the soldiers, with Torres, with the head getting ripped off, and just the little detail of the vocal cords stretching and making that screeching cat sound. Rickles with the very Fulci-esque eye gouge kill. My favorite scene in the movie, and one of my favorite moments in a movie, is when the zombies are coming in on steel and he realizes he's going to have to kill himself and the music swells. And then Bub and Rhodes' final kill, and he gets ripped apart, and all of it is just, it looks so goddamn good to this day. So yeah, number 2, and my number 1 horror movie ending of all time, Day of the Dead. And number 1, which I think is the greatest ending to a film ever, period. This has been close for debate forever now, and this is The Last of the Mohegans from Michael Mann from 1992. This is my second favorite film of all time. This is a movie that I've been watching since I was 5 years old or so. This is one of my most watched movies of all time. And the ending to this film is just cinematic perfection in every single way. The music, the shots, the fight choreography, the sound design, the acting, which right after the chief gives his saying and they start burning Duncan, there's no words of dialogue spoken until 9 minutes later at the end of the film. And the acting is still phenomenal, just from everyone's expressions, mannerisms. I can't say enough about the ending. If you haven't seen Last of the Mohegans for some reason, make that your thing to do, like as soon as possible, like right now if possible. But that is my top 20 film endings of all time. Do you agree with some of them? What are some of yours that are missing from this list? Leave it in the comments. I want to hear them all. Alright everybody, hope everyone has a spooky night. Take care.